I do not want my idea of you. That is too easy, and it is not real. I want you, faults and all, and I want you to want me, faults and all, not any ideas you have about love. My mom is saying my collar's messed up. Well, thank you so much for coming. Let's get started, shall we? I guess I just wanted to start by saying that my parents got married in this room. That used to be Trunk Barumshi's office up there. And now it's one of the founders of the Boulder Book Store's office. There's still calligraphy by Trunk Barumshi there. This was the shrine room where they sat and dealt with their minds, or didn't, or avoided their minds. And I wanted to thank all of you who I know, who are dear friends, who came. And there's a lot of people who worked hard on this book. I didn't work very hard on it. I kind of wrote it and then threw it in the trash, and then Lindsay would take it out of the trash and try and edit it. But David Britton back here, Colt Printing. We printed about 20 blocks away with Colt. He's right there in the middle. Yeah, so if you want to print locally, he's a great option. It's been a great partnership. Just about every book, modern kind of book, is coated in plastic and is never compostable. We have a real romance for books, which is beautiful, but modern books are not actually always that beautiful. So I encourage you to buy used books, support your local independent bookshop, and buy books that don't have plastic coating. So David helped us get there. It's also on, Rainforest Alliance paper and all that. You can read about it in the end. And we're boycotting Amazon. We're doing an independent bookstore tour. So this is the first one. So maybe we should take a shot of scotch and give ourselves a round of applause. That was applause for independent bookstores, by the way, not for me. So, I'm 41 years old now. I started writing this when I was 39, and after a particularly inspiring date, I was going to say with Dave in the back, but he happened to be there. It wasn't actually with him. I wrote what would become the first chapter, and it just reflected a kind of burnout and a longing for something genuine. And I blog a lot on the internets, the tubes, and rarely do you get anything other than, you did okay there. Usually comments are like, you're a jerk, I love Trump, something casually racist or sexist. That's your average internet comment. I wrote that article about, it was titled Things I'd Like to Do With You in the Woods. No, not a slasher horror movie. And it was the first time I'd ever written anything to 100%, not even 98% positive feedback. And I said, wow, after 39 years, I did something right. So I just kind of kept going. And it was hard because it required me to be genuine and vulnerable, which, as if you know me, are two of my least obvious qualities. So it's called a reading, so I guess I should read something. I feel like reading is sort of boring. We need a fire and some scotch. And where's my dog when you need him? So this book, most of the chapters went with all the seasons and was a sort of contemplation of past dates and everything I'd experienced and done wrong and that kind of thing. Guess I'll sit down. Whew. Pre-ramble. Or as the first edition of the book said, pre-reamble. As we look to the sort of future love that we would like to hold, one that includes ample room for our loneliness and our love's independence, and yet is full of our friendship, we look over our past relationships and remember their lessons in love. And a long line of the dear hearts who have loved us, however briefly, files slowly past and waves goodbye to us one by one. This story is not true, but it is not fiction. This story is my heart's life. A cabin that is not a cabin begins this story that is not a story. That's not just pretty words. This cabin doesn't exist. It was probably the only fictional element in the book. My mom, after reading this, which was an interesting experience to hear her reaction. If you've read it, there's some intimate stuff in here. Not mom-approved stuff. But she said, "What cabin are you talking about? I don't, it seems very real in the book." Though I do not yet know where I will find the cabin that will finish this story. I have written this story out so that it will forget me. I leave our precious past in the stream beneath the trees. I've taken my pen to white paper and scrawled black ink into the words of our red laughter. I take the winds of nature's breath and invite them to carry my voice. And so I have written this story and said it all out without saying anything extra. I do not write these words to sound sickly sweet or saccharine. I write truth, and whatever comes out, and I am this. And so I offer up this thin book for the fire, visible tracings of ephemeral experience. And I must remind you that none of this is serious. It is only daydream, occasionally hot to the touch. If you are not here, you will only hear a bird's too loud, cheery morning song. But one of you may strike a match to light up these dreams, and these words may become real. Here are the scraps of paper. Each chapter tells of past relationships until now, so that you will know all of me, and so that I may let go of all, and so that we may leap into our unknown futures. The rest is just kind of boring. So that's the preamble. Basically, it's setting out that, people ask, like we were at Mountain Sun last night when we found out that the book was the #1 bestseller in the Boulder Book Store, which is pretty cool. It's a dangerous place to be when you hear very good news. For those of you who know Mountain Sun, they have very good beer. And we immediately toasted several times, toasted every different angle possible. And, one of our waiters or waitresses asked what it was about, and I said it's about love. And that's not exactly true, because it's also, if you've read it, about loneliness, which is a huge part of love. Love is kind of, Valentine's. Whenever I say it's about love, people say, "Oh." But if you say, "Oh, I wrote a book about loneliness and about maybe feeling lost, and like maybe I'll never find a partner, and maybe I'll never have those children, and maybe I have are there children? There are. No clue how to be in a relationship. Unlike my friends who all seem happily married. I mean, look at them. They look like an ideal little family over there. I seem to have missed some step here. So it's a book about all of that. And I think why it's actually important, if it is at all important, it's clearly not important. If it were important, it would be because 100 years ago, I was just reading the New York Times Sunday magazine, that your average woman married by the age of, anyone want to guess? Someone said 30? So 20 years old. And you were an old maid. You were considered an old maid by 21, 22. Those of you who read Jane Austen or Bronte, whatever, know that to be true. So we are in the middle of a sea change. We don't feel it because, like the frog in the pan, it's happening and we're in it. But basically, for the first time, people are, even waiting to marry for love is a relatively new concept. In many, many cultures, that's still not something that happens. So we're waiting for this thing, and what is that thing that we're waiting for? Things. Is it love? Is it what we've seen in rom-coms, romantic comedies? You put Netflix on, and the couple, like the guy drops a book on her foot, and then they go out on a date, and then they have talk with their best friends, one of whom is African American. That's a Chris Rock joke from the Oscars, by the way. It's just an incredibly sort of trite, packaged, condescending thing. What Buddhists would call hope is actually regarded as a problem. We all think of hope as a positive thing, but in the Buddhist conception of love, hope and fear are two sides of one coin, and you don't need either if you're in the present moment. You're on the razor's edge of being present. And as any of you know who have experienced love, even briefly, that's where That's the only, what's our pint glass say? That's the only moment where brilliance or love or anything good that you've ever experienced, a bite of food, a lover, a fresh breeze, a good coffee, that's the only moment anything good has ever happened in, is the present moment. And that's all you have, really, as those of us who have lost dear friends know. So, on that cheery note, I'll read a little more. I don't know if I'm good at sitting down. So, I'm taking requests, Freebird. I'll start with the first chapter. Have a lot of people read the first chapter? Should I skip it? Boring. It's kind of old hat. I'll just read a paragraph of it. Things I would like to do with you in the woods. The simplest things are often the truest. Richard Bach. That's a quote by Richard Bach. I started off by plagiarizing. There's a lot of, the other thing I like about this book is I've collected just about all my favorite quotes about love into this volume. So if you don't like my writing, I would like to go a ways away to a cabin, and I would like to look you in the eyes, and you look me in the eyes as lovers do, a soft, invisible smile, quiet, warm, calm. I would like to not come back for 10 days. 10 days is not long enough, but it is longer than I have taken for myself in 11 years. It would be a first visit, a return to the woods of my youth. I can cut wood quite well and show you how. I can pick too much mint because I am distracted by you. The mint is strong, almost bitter in the wild. You know, then it goes on. For the rest, you'll have to buy the book. So I grew up in the Buddhist community. Most of you don't know that. I never mention it. Sort of a running joke that I do mention it a lot. But I grew up in the Buddhist community going to endless weddings, and all the weddings talk about the wedding. Buddhist wedding vows include this poem called Unconditional Friendship, and that's actually how they kind of define marriage. Friends of mine have heard it as many times as I have, and it talks about how when you marry, it's like being a snake in a bamboo tube. You can't turn around. And that's an incredibly claustrophobic image. And when I think about marriage, I think, well, I better get it right, because so many of my dear friends have married someone who they love and who they're best friends with, and for very good reasons it didn't work out, including my parents who got married in this room. Very good reasons that it didn't work out. In fact, incredibly good reasons. In fact, my mom should have probably divorced that guy, who I love, if you're here, years earlier. So there's no shame in divorce. But as we contemplate what kind of even a relationship that we want, what do we look for? And in the Buddhist image, they have an image instead of, and all respect to Christianity, I went to Sunday school, God bless. But the image is not two flames becoming one. You're not trying to fuse into one wonderful being. The image is that you're two people walking side by side on a path of service to the benefit of all. And you're still alone. You might hold hands, you might smooch, you might make love, you might tickle each other, you might tell your partner to sleep on a couch for the night if you're sick of them, but you're walking together in partnership. And that's, I think, what might be, if anything, important about this book is that it presents a slightly different and more groundless and more, when there's space between two hearts, there's room for loneliness and for change and for independence and for even humor, which often we forget humor often when we talk about true love. Together. It's a popular movie. Everyone got that one. All right. So I'm going to read one complete chapter, and at least a part of me will shut up for a minute. The part of me that's just talking randomly. Things I would like to do with you in time. We lead our lives like water flowing down a hill, going more or less in one direction until we splash into something that forces us to find a new course. Arthur Golden. You are out there and I am out here, and this is not the time. But the time may come to pass. That is how time works. The only question that matters now, then, is whether our hearts have connected and can learn to breathe together. If you had a spare hour, I would not want to see you. I want you to take a break from your path and do something lovely for yourself. A massage or a swim or fun with friends, whatever you have not done for yourself that you are thirsty for. Maitri. Space is love, and I give that which cannot be given to, but can only be taken from you. And you need it. As you have said, it provides ground for good things to come. We tend to want to fill someone's space when we fall in love, and that's not very kind. Love can very easily become selfish, the ultimate act of selfishness. If you had a day, I would fly anywhere in the country to see you, if only for an hour, and we could drink warm, hot brown coffee. There's a lot of coffee in this book. And go for a walk, and I would like to cry at the thought of seeing you and holding your hands, sitting on a bench, looking into the street together, seeing your profile from the other side. Sighs are healthy, for they mix watery emotion with space and humor. If you had a week, I would like to meet you somewhere, on your road or in my hometown. We could dinner and go to a show and to a bar and play pool and laugh at each other and drink local beer and stay separately or together. I would rent something where we could climb to the roof. We could bicycle and go to a used bookstore or an independent local bookstore downtown. And we could cuddle and read out loud if that is not too much. If that is too much, we could just walk in the park. If that is still too much, we could just go to a party and be loud and fun and barely make eye contact, but warm one another in each other's fires. If that is too much, we could just be naked and sweat and learn one another's bodies and movements, like two new surfers learning to respect the water. Hey, parents. It's cool. If that is too much, we can forget one another mostly, as we have our other lovers. If you had 2 weeks, we could go on a little break together to a romantic retreat. Big sky or ocean cliffs or pink desert with nothing but space, big skies, warm waters, nothing to do but be. If you had 3 weeks, however, we should go to blue islands. White walls, white sky, white sea, blue skies, your eyes, your hair, your bikini, my shorts, 4-tanned and sandy bare feet. What are the colors there? Blue, bright blue, pale blue, blue-green, gray blue, bright pink flowers and sun, light pink and white tablecloth, white, white, white. I want to spend some time on the sea and in the islands. A painted lacquered wooden boat, your red dress, impossibly blue sky and water. See-through white curtains in a hot breeze. But if you had 4 weeks and you were ready, which you are not, we should just be simple together in my hometown and live life and not do anything but hike and drink coffee and work and laugh with my dog and eat good food with many good friends or alone and run together up along the creek into the mountains. We could text and make appointments with one another. What are you doing later? And see each other when convenient, like adults, like normal life, and see. And that would be best, to live everyday life with you. For I do not know you, and though I seem dreamy and open, just beneath that layer I am waiting, my hope balanced with prajna. 3 layers down I am rational. That is where my hesitation and patience rest. But I am not afraid of exploring and finding out what lies over the edge of the flat earth, for it is not flat. I am not afraid of anything but filling your space. You need and deserve that, and I would not like to be a part of anything other than love in your life. And as you and I both know, in our bones, in our blood, in our mind stream, in our calm moments, love is made up of space, just as the earth is made up of water. And my love includes laughter. The wood fire requires wood and oxygen both, and I love to cut wood. So I can read more if you want, or if anyone has questions and would like to interrupt me, I'll pay you $5 later. If you do have questions, I think Lindsay here has the mic. So does the blue mean start here? Mm-hmm. Okay. I knew that. Anyone? Questions or comments? Who said that? Oh, hey. Well, the thing I most admire is tasteful, elegant, good craft, say jewelry. But a close second, she's a jeweler, little brown nosing. Yeah, I grew up here, and then I went to Vermont, and I actually worked for a year as a lumberjack, and did not wear proper, safe attire. None of us did. It's pretty sketchy. But we worked all day and cut wood, and I loved it in Vermont. And you'd be cutting in the middle of a blizzard, and we were living at a Buddhist meditation center. And cutting wood is, I mean, what's not to love about it? There are no dumb questions, but no, thank you. What's that? Why do you love cutting wood? Wow, this is becoming zen fast. I think I love cutting wood because just like bicycling or climbing or pool, like billiards, or meditation, you have to be completely present, and unlike meditation, it's fun. And it's great exercise, also unlike meditation. If you look at the Buddhist community and then the yoga community, you'll see one difference very, very quickly. Buddhists are, yeah. All right.
Do you have a preferred chapter or preferred part of the book?
Oh, do we need to mic? Sorry. Yeah. So the question was, how did the book turn out so amazing?
Yeah. Well, that too.
Yeah.
Do you have a preferred chapter or a preferred part of the book?
I mean, honestly, how many people have written books here and published them? Couple? Any others? Mark? Couple others? So as the few people who have published a book here know, editing, to quote General Sherman, is hell. Is horrible. Horrible. Writing it was like fun and easy and hard, and really I had no idea what I was doing, but it just kind of unfolded, or didn't. Sometimes I'd go months without writing anything, and I was never going to write again. I had no idea what to write, and then it would just happen, or it was horrible. Sometimes I wrote something and it was, perfect, like I didn't need to edit it, and usually I would write something and it was like kind of good, and then you go back to edit it and it's like, everything is wrong with this. And editing doesn't really help, but it gives you the illusion that it's getting better. You can get rid of the bad stuff, but then there's other bad stuff. Sort of like pouring like chemical fertilizer on a lawn. You might kill the bad things, but then you have a toxic dump in your chapter. So I guess I would say my answer to that is some of us have connected on Instagram, I believe. I've shared most of the quotes that I appreciate on Instagram. A lot of quotes from your, if you write a book, you'll reread your book and it'll be embarrassing, kind of. But some of them hold up, and some of them you still connect with. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Some of them you connect with. So maybe I could read one of those right now, a paragraph, one that I actually just asked us to find right before. The pink one. So this is one paragraph. It has not been a month or a week or 4 days. It has been my whole lifetime since I have seen you. This was about the notion of that I've never met whoever it might be. It has not been a month or a week or 4 days. It has been my whole lifetime since I have seen you. I have sailed out to sea every morning, waking when it is still dark. The stars light against the cold sky, unraveling what my wiry hands had coiled up the night before. It has been too long, so long that I did not know you until I met you and said goodbye again to you, a lifetime without your friendship. I would like to see you. So, that one's all right. Any other comments or questions on your experience of love or relationships or changing or?
I have a question, Waylon, about.
Oh.
I have a question about, you've mentioned vulnerability a few times, and I The paparazzi.
Sorry, no, I had to block it. It was like, ding.
I wonder if you could speak a little more to that topic and how you relate to vulnerability. I get the feeling often that this is not difficult for you to be vulnerable, and I am curious to hear your stance on that.
Yeah, I'm super good at vulnerability. It's kind of no problem for me. Let's move on quickly. No, I just ran into Sarah, who's a longtime friend. Where's Sarah? Sarah. And she was like, I mean, we've known each other a little bit for a long time. And she was like, wow, this is a different side to you. I didn't know you were, I don't know, whatever, likable. What's that? Sensitive. So, I mean, I think from a Buddhist point of view, vulnerability is how we all feel. And if we put something up over our heart, we're just delaying the moment when we could be genuinely, truly happy in the future. But we shield ourselves because it's terrifying to be open and genuine with someone or with oneself. And that's where the practice of meditation helps me. I think vulnerability. The downside of vulnerability is you can make it very solid. You can say, I'm vulnerable, and I'm proud of it. And anyone who's invulnerable is part of the patriarchy, the white man, you know. And that vulnerability isn't exactly something to be proud of. It's just, it is who we are. And I don't think anything's wrong with being proud of it. I just think it's actually ordinary. Like Trungpa Rinpoche would often say, the Buddhist teacher would often say, we're not a project. You know, you don't have to solidify everything. It's like a present moment thing. So I don't know if that makes sense, but if we can practice being vulnerable and being genuine and communicating. I guess one of my favorite chapters, I would say, the most important chapters for relationships is titled Things I Would Like to Hear from You When You Are Confused, something like that. When You Are Afraid. We might have edited it. You know, it's easy to have a good, like, honeymoon love affair, and then suddenly someone's being weird, you know, and they're kind of awkward, or they're grumpy, or something's going on, and you're like, what's going on? And they're like, nothing, I'm fine, everything's great, because they don't want to say, I'm really pissed at you because, you know, you interrupted me 5 times in a row when I was trying to order dinner, and you're really disrespectful. And I can't believe I'm in love with someone who's disrespectful. And it's probably not going to get better. I thought you were the one, or at least something really good. And now I'm living in a nightmare. And they're kind of eating their salad, you know, but not being present with it at all. Sorry, I'm talking to you suddenly now. And it can be really hard for them to feel permission to just say, you know, I had a long day. I would have loved it if you checked in with how I'm doing. I realized I didn't check in with you, actually, now that I mention it. Like, once you just start talking, everything's okay, you know? So I think for vulnerability, when in doubt, communicate, you know? I mean, it's kind of a great trick. I think it's actually sort of better than The Secret. Like, you know, positivity is kind of a cool trick. But an even better trick is just communicate no matter what. And then you're kind of okay. And if they're like, stop talking, then you can be like, you're kind of making me feel like you're trying to be small. Or, yeah, I agree, I annoy myself. You can just talk your way through anything. All right. On that note, I'll read something. So, I don't get the color coding. It's so simple and I don't get it. I would like to run into you on the street. Is that where I start? Right here? If it's blue? Yeah? They just went like this. I would like to run into you on the street. So Lindsay here, the reason I'm asking her is she stuck with me through 3 or 4 years of editing this and pushed me forward to edit it, and I definitely wouldn't have finish this without her. So if you appreciate this book, and if you don't appreciate this book, see her after. was just...
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, well, we're going to read something. I would like to run into you on the street. Am I okay for the camera? Yeah. I would like to run into you on the street and flirt at you and have you talk over me and laugh, for you are strong like a filly, and you laugh into me as I talk back over you, and we talk over one another as the tide does when it retreats and folds up against itself, old waves relaxing back into new waves rushing. Before I lose you, I would like to go to a bad poetry reading where everyone talks loudly and humorlessly, spoken word style. Sorry, we have some spoken word fans in the front here. I love it, because that is what they think poetry sounds like. When really we will smile at one another, for we know what poetry sounds like. It sounds like this. Close your soft eyes and listen. It sounds like listening to whales underwater on an old vinyl record in my childhood living room, in my memory. It sounds like the nightly crickets we forget to hear. It sounds like the pause before a cherished old song comes on, say, Supremes, or Debussy, or Chopin, or Chopin, or Gene Kelly, or some jig. It sounds like old travels and old streams and 6 of us going for a walk on a straight dirt road after dinner. I would like to hold your hand, for it is always the first time when I hold your hand, for I am so enthusiastic about you that I hope you do not notice, and I have to constantly remind myself that I will lose you. For the future is all made up, none of this matters, these are just words. I would like to stop word playing and see you. Any comments on the Buddhist notion of love? We could get into a philosophical debate, burn 5 minutes, and then we're out of here. Or I can read more. I would like to communicate with you about difficult things. Love can survive fear only if acknowledged. Things are not easy always. A love affair is not imagination. It is the vicissitudes of daily life. It is 2 life streams intermingling. It is heavy silence with nothing to say. It is inadvertently making big deals about small nothings. I would like to hear you give voice in the hard times. Then I can know this is a river of true love, not merely a shallow standing pool. Love is not fantasy. It is bricks and mortar. Where's Jean? There she is. Relationship is earth. Love is fantasy too. It is heaven. Dreams and... Sorry, let me reread that. This is more Shakespearean here. Love is not fantasy. It is bricks and mortar. Relationship is earth. Love is fantasy too. It is heaven. Dreams and hormones and pleasure and biology and sudden laughter. It is the rub between the two that creates sparks, earth striking against heaven. It is communication that is water that cools these sparks and gets us through the fear of loss, the difficult times, the simple arguments over dishes, or the serious arguments over ethics. Here's a quote. What is required of us is that we love the difficult and learn to deal with it. In the difficult are the friendly forces, the hands that work on us. Right in the difficult, we must have our joys, our happiness, our dreams. There against the depth of this background, they stand out. There, for the first time, we see how beautiful they are, by a little guy named Rilke. We have connected. I would like to love you, if that is how it is. I would like to honor this connection with mutual openness. Or I would like to lose you, if that is how it is. I would not like to dishonor our connection with a lack of communication about the confusing things. Connection is a rare spark, a cause for joy. I would not like to lose said spark because of your inability to communicate about your fear. I learned when young that if confused, I should be open about it and it will get better. And yet sometimes I forget this lesson. I collapse into insecurity, and if unopened, it can become depression. When I cannot be charming, when I cannot be who you or others think I am embarrassed. It is our task to talk when we would hide. We can talk confusion. We do not have to wait for clarity. I would like to honor our fear by tending to it. When gripped by confusion, do not shut down, rather talk it out. It is a clumsy, simple tactic that works every time. This is a more eloquent version of what we were just talking about. I'll move on. Any questions? Hi.
Okay, according to your premise, then I don't think this thing works.
Well, we turned it off just now.
So it looks like.
I don't like challenging questions, only positive feedback.
Okay. So if it's true that like everybody, like if you're just openly honest with everyone and spontaneous and authentic all the time, then how do you pair this, how in a love situation, like for a long, for a lifelong paired relationship, how do you choose that?
How do you choose which?
How do you choose who that person is for you? Like being the young gentleman that you are.
You swipe, which way is it? I mean, if I knew the answer to that, I wouldn't have written this. This is not written from I think for those who have read this, this is not a philosophical treatise. This is my experience. So what I would say is that in my experience, I have failed. I was talking with Dave Rogers. Is he still Dave? I was like, I'm 41. Like, I have literally failed in every relationship ever 100% of the time. So why? The only thing crazier than that is asking me advice or something. But you're not. You're bringing up a great point, which is all we can do is be who we are and communicate honestly, not in an aggressive way. Honesty is often seen as sort of like a cudgel, Like, this is how I feel. And that's how I feel. That's the kid version. I can't swear. So, but honesty really should be gentle and open. The Suzuki Roshi quote, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. So you're kind of beginner's mind about it. That's all I would say, is if you're honest, it'll sort itself out. I think recently I was meeting with my meditation instructor, Frank Berliner, and he was talking about staff for Elephant Journal. And I was like, I don't know, how do you choose who's going to work with you, And he said, well, you seem to have really good taste. You get a lot of great people work with you. And for those who aren't going to work out, they'll self-select out. I think that's somewhat analogous to dating. I'm not right for most people. I'm pretty boring. Yeah. Yeah, don't laugh at me, RC. No, I mean, I write about that, or maybe I just have written about it elsewhere. But a lot of us date the exciting version of ourselves. Oh, you look great. You look so beautiful. You look so interesting. And then if you date me, pretty much you're around me blogging or on my laptop. It's not very interesting. So then I would dump me personally. That would be my. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. There was another question. Yeah.
What was it like for you writing this story and then putting it out for people to read when it is a personal tale?
Well, Lindsay, where's Lindsay? What were you reminding me of? Do you want to say it? Are you allowed to say it? Yeah, you have the mic.
Yeah, just when he published each blog or chapter in the beginning, he would keep it as Elephant Journal, so it would be anonymous, because it is so vulnerable. Sorry?
So it would be.
It would be anonymous as Elephant Journal, just wouldn't have an author attached to it, because I think it was very personal to put out, but then I think after a few days he would claim it.
Yeah, I think, so I didn't talk about that, but this is a kind of interesting thing, and maybe just change gears a little bit. Since all of you are having too much fun, we'll chill it out a little bit. But this is independent publishing at its most independent. So we're going through independent bookstores. We serialized this a la Dickens on Elephant Journal. So I would write a chapter and it would go up on Elephant, and readers would help me edit it. They would say, I don't understand what you're talking about. Or they would say, wow, we love whatever the feedback was, it really helped. And it's true, I didn't put my name on most of it, because if it felt real and it generally felt vulnerable, And then after a couple days, it was sort of old news, That's just how the internet works. So it kind of would chill out, like it would get 90%. They were very popular, which is interesting, or was interesting to me, was surprising to me. I mean, when you write about something pretty vulnerable, you don't expect it to be super popular. Why not? Right. And now it's the #1 bestseller. But little did I know then. No, you honestly, it's a little bit terrifying. It feels like you're being very vulnerable in public in front of internet strangers, which, you know, who knows what you're going to get. So, but how was it reading it? Since I know you're one of the, you had to read it. Oh. What did you? So I think what's interesting is you didn't love it because of me or anything like that. Like people connect to it because of their own experience. Maybe, if I may, what met with your experience, or what part did you connect with?
I don't know. That's personal. I don't
Well,
know.
you can say it anonymously.
Exactly. Pretend you all haven't seen me.
What's that?
I don't know. I think it was just, I like that it kind of touched on the things that we don't talk about with love. It touches on the things that when you're lonely or when you don't know what to say or when, I don't know, a million other things. And I think that, I mean, we've been writing about love for centuries, for as long as we could write probably. But we always talk about it in huge, grandiose terms. And so, I don't know.
That
It's
was
the little
part of the goal
things.
with the editing process that took so long, was to, whenever we could find any cliche, which is so easy to have come up when you're writing about something like love, was to get rid of it and say exactly what I meant. So that was helpful. I think yeah, sir.
I wondered earlier, what is this book about? What is the book about? And you wondered, what should I say about love? I think it's about emotional liability. Does that make sense?
Yes. What do you mean? Have you read it, or are you just?
Well, I just started it.
Cool.
A little bit. And when what's being talked about here really sounds like you're talking about emotional liability.
I think if maybe what you mean is whenever we dare to be in a relationship, we dare to open up a little bit and we dare to feel. And in the Buddhist tradition, we would call that, we want to be in cocoon. Cocoon is like, you have a good Netflix subscription, you haven't done your dishes, you left your clothes on the floor, all the windows are closed, all the shades are drawn so nobody knows you're home, and you just hole up and you're comfortable and nothing's going to hurt me, or I'm not going to feel anything, and I can just zone out. Maybe I might smoke a little, it's Boulder, and nothing's wrong with any of that, but it could be a little bit stale. And eventually, Trungpa Rinpoche talks about in the Shambhala, the book, he says, you have a longing for fresh air, even if it's cold. You open up the window and you take the blinds off, it's the cocoon, and you take off your cocoon. And I think being in a genuine relationship that isn't just a projection, like I finally found someone who fulfills my projection, that is great for at least a week or two, and then you might do something that doesn't fulfill my projection, and then I will destroy you, or collapse in self-pity. That's a kind of immature love, which I am an expert on that. David.
When you find the one,
Right.
will you write a follow-up answering several parts of those chapters that I've also read? Answering back, almost anonymously, about your new situation?
I think I never want to write another book. Editing it was so hard, but if I did, I actually think that book would be more important, because we know from rom-coms, the story always ends when real life begins. There's been a couple movies in the last few years that I've actually seen that starts with a young couple. There was one that was, it didn't start with a young couple. I loved it. Time, something about time, only time or something. Huh? About Time, was that it? I love About Time, because it actually goes through the, they fall in love, the meet cute thing. They fall in love in a museum, right? Right, okay. And then, glad you came, whoever you are. I like you. Together, America. So, but it really goes into their relationship, and they have kids, and they struggle, and she takes 20 minutes trying on different navy blue dresses, and he's like, I don't get it. It was great. The first one was great. The second one was great. You look great. She's like, you don't like my bangs, And it's not cliche. It's a real relationship, and I think that is almost more important. That said, the way I wrote this is I would usually write kind of in the moment about relationships I was in, which is why it took a little while to write. So if I were to be in that relationship, I better keep good notes, which I never do. So who knows? Awkward.
Oh, Waylon, I have a.
Shall we wrap it
I
up?
think we have time for one last question.
Great. Maybe I'll read one paragraph and then one Michael Sandrock. Sir.
I have a couple. Well, I'll make this a two-part question since it's the last
A bolder
one.
question.
Yeah. Well, one is where. First question is, where do you get your drive? Because you're such a hard worker. Those of us that have seen you in all the coffee shops, you have a great work ethic and a great drive, and I'm wondering where that came from. And then the second part is, could you just take us through the process from writing the blog to actually getting a hold of Colt and then having the book?
Yeah. So I can repeat it. Thank you, Michael. So Michael's a great friend and writer for the Daily Camera and about running, and he's an incredibly good human being, decent human being. So I feel like making a joke out of the first one, but I'll give you a genuine answer, which is that this world is full of suffering, so much suffering. As those of you, most of us live in Boulder, probably most of you, even though you live in this amazingly happiest town, privilege, you still go through suffering. Humans suffer. We're confused, we're neurotic, we're selfish, we tend to have a rough time, and we don't talk about it generally. And let alone the rest of the world, much of which has a very genuine and pressing suffering. If you think about, the examples are obvious, Syria, what have you. If you think about the amount of crimes, war crimes, sexual harassment, rape, war going on every moment of every day in the world. Elephants going to be extinct in the wild in 5 to 10 years unless we change something very dramatically. There's tiger bone farms. It's crazy. Factory farming, right here. So my drive comes from, I have been given a lot. I was given Buddhism and meditation, which is a path to sanity, of sanity. And it also isn't very, what do you call it? It's not trying to convert everybody, so I don't really care if any of you are Buddhist. You can check it out if you want. But really, as the Dalai Lama says, you should do your own thing, whatever that is, more fully, and appreciate that. But I was given some open path to sanity, and I would love to offer that, whether it's environmentalism or the various subjects Elephant covers. And we've reached 25, 35 million page views a month, and we have potential to do far more. If you think about the noise and the hype that media makes every day, imagine if there could be a voice out there that could rise above the Facebook algorithm and offer something genuine. Right now we're struggling to do that in some ways. So that's what gives me my drive, and it's a good thing. So that's the Bodhisattva vow, trying to be of service to others. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, she was miserable her whole life until she discovered service, and that was true joy. And for the rest of her life, that's all she wanted to do. So it has nothing to do with Buddhism, it's every tradition or non-tradition. But this book also came out of a level of longing to rest and burnout. The first chapter starts there, and I'm definitely burned out. So I don't think I do have more drive than anyone else. I just have I do, you know, like in Dead Poets Society, Robin Williams, it's like, the poem of history is long. What will your verse be? You know, what will you contribute? I think hopefully all of us want to contribute one verse, whether it's a loud verse or a quiet verse, a genuinely helpful verse. I hope. And then, what was the second question?
Just going from the blog to getting a hold of Colt in.
Oh yeah. Well, so I was here at the Boulder Book Store and I watched Dave Eggers, great writer, guy I love, created a lot of independent publishing stuff, uses a lot of that money to help tutor kids and do all kinds of fun stuff. He's a great guy. He's amazing. Check him out. And he was here and I talked to him afterward about Elephant and all this stuff, you know, and we were connecting and he was saying, you know, he prints in the US and he was really talking a lot about how he printed this beautiful volume. It was one of his more recent ones, the King's one. Anyway, and so Elephant is all about covering anything that's good for the world, good for us, and fun for others, fun for everyone, fun for all. So we wanted to, you know, walk our talk and print in the US, and we went to Dave Eggers' printer. I think it was somewhere outside of Detroit. And we talked with them, and they were fine. And until we kind of got the notion that we could actually maybe print more locally, because shipping wood is heavy, you know, wood. Shipping stuff is heavy. So we connected with Colt. I think Pam, our designer who designed this, first connected us, and Colt has been a real partner, you know. They've taught us a lot. We know nothing. We are just kind of coasting into the perfect storm of having no idea what we're doing. So far so good, right? Anyway, thank you. Maybe I'll end with one last short quote to cap the evening. How's that? Emily back here edited a ton of it. She's wearing the brand new Things I Would Like to Do With You t-shirt, which Elena of Boulder Book Store is going to be carrying here. She's introverted, so she only showed it for 3 seconds, but that's okay. What's that? Okay. She shows a mercifully short one. I do not want my idea of you. That is too easy, and it is not real. I want you, faults and all, and I want you to want me, faults and all, not any ideas you have about love.